Chapter 6. Subject: Details for upcoming commercial shoot. Hi Jonathan, I hope you're doing well. As we get ready for the commercial shoot for the capsule collection, I wanted to touch base on a couple of things. With the increased paparazzi attention lately, I think it's best if I check into the hotel under an alias to maintain a bit more privacy. Also, I'd love to stay in the presidential suite at the Four Seasons Toronto. It's truly a perfect setting for both comfort and discretion. One more thing. I'm curious about the choice of Toronto for the filming location. While I appreciate the charm of Toronto, I can't help but think that New York City's iconic backdrop might bring an extra touch of sophistication to the commercial. Could we explore the possibility of filming there instead? Thanks so much for your help with these details. I'm excited about the shoot and can't wait to see how everything turns out. Best, Morgan. Jonathan opened Morgan's email and stared at the screen, his eyebrows knitting together as he read through her requests. The shoot was in just 2 days, and the arrangements had already been set in motion: hotel bookings, crew accommodations, and all necessary logistics were already in place. He rubbed his temple, trying to stave off a mounting headache. The presidential suite at the Four Seasons Toronto. Under an alias? And now she was questioning the location. Jonathan had meticulously coordinated everything, only to be faced with a last-minute query about why Toronto had been chosen over New York City. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling a frustrated sigh, and grabbed his phone to show Brian. Brian, Jonathan's partner and fellow celebrity manager, glanced at the email and immediately burst into laughter. "Oh, this is rich," Brian said, his laughter echoing through the office. "The shoot is already locked in, and Morgan's just now deciding she wants a presidential suite and an alternate city." Classic. Jonathan shook his head, trying to suppress a smile despite his irritation. "I'm trying to figure out how to gracefully respond without blowing a gasket." Brian's amusement only grew. "Well, she's definitely living the diva dream, isn't she? But seriously, we can't just shift everything last minute. We'll have to explain that everything is already booked and reassure her that Toronto will be fabulous." Jonathan nodded, still feeling the weight of the situation. "Yeah, I guess we'll have to smooth this over. I just hope she's in a good mood when she arrives, and let's hope she likes the suite we've already got." Brian patted Jonathan's shoulder reassuringly. "Don't worry, it'll all work out. Just remember, this is part of the job. You handle the details, and I'll handle the laughs." Jonathan chuckled despite himself, feeling a bit better. "Thanks. I'll draft a response and keep you updated." He took a deep breath and started typing, determined to navigate the latest curveball with professionalism and a touch of humour. Morgan stepped off the plane in Toronto, her heart racing with the thrill of her latest adventure. The airport buzzed with activity, but she glided through with practiced ease, dark sunglasses shielding her eyes and a baseball hat pulled low over her brow. Her navy blue sweater was tied effortlessly around her shoulders, complementing a crisp white shirt and wide-legged pants, an ensemble she'd meticulously curated to radiate effortless sophistication. Skinny jeans, she knew, were out of style, and the gold watch on her wrist added a touch of understated elegance. As she navigated through the terminal, she kept her head down, scanning the crowd for any lurking paparazzi. The fashion awards had been a whirlwind, and she was determined to maintain her mystique. She was the Morgan Smith now, an undeniable star. Her recent success had come with a price, a heightened awareness of her public image. Her chauffeur, a tall man in a sharp suit, greeted her with a warm smile and a nod. Morgan returned the gesture with a practiced starlet wave, her confidence unwavering. She slid into the back seat of the luxurious car, letting out a sigh of relief as the vehicle whisked her away to the hotel. But as they pulled up to the hotel, her heart sank. The building, though charming, didn't exude the opulence she had envisioned. This wasn't the Four Seasons. The disappointment was almost palpable, but she forced herself to maintain a positive demeanour. Inside the lobby, she removed her sunglasses and approached the front desk. She took a deep breath and gave the name Rose DeMarco, her carefully chosen alias for added discretion. The concierge glanced at the computer screen and then back at her, his expression turning puzzled. "I'm sorry, Miss DeMarco, but I don't see a reservation under that name," he said, his tone apologetic but firm. Morgan's smile remained fixed as she gently corrected him. "Actually, the reservation should be under Morgan Smith." "I think there might be a mix-up." The concierge's eyes widened slightly, and he quickly typed in her real name. After a brief moment, he found the booking and handed over the room keys with a polite smile. "Here you go, Miss Smith. Your suite is on the top floor. If there's anything else you need, please let us know." Morgan accepted the keys, her smile never faltering. "Thank you. I'm sure everything will be just perfect." As she made her way to the elevator, she glanced around, noting the modest decor of the hotel. It wasn't the luxury she had hoped for, but she reminded herself that it was only temporary. The real success lay in the commercial shoot and the networking opportunities that awaited. She squared her shoulders and stepped into the elevator, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with the poise and determination that had brought her this far. Jonathan sat in his office, the hum of his laptop filling the quiet room. It was a typical day at the agency until his inbox began to flood with messages. He clicked on the first one, his eyes widening as he read, "Subject, urgent, Morgan Smith, production delay. Hi Jonathan, Morgan arrived 2 hours late today. The commercial shoot was supposed to start at 9 a.m, but we had to delay until 11. Additionally, the script we have seen is outdated according to her and doesn't align with her revisions. We need Morgan to speak with the writers immediately to address these issues. Best, Kelsey." Jonathan groaned and clicked on the next email. It was from Morgan's personal assistant. Subject, hotel accommodation issues. "Hi Jonathan, Morgan was extremely disappointed with her hotel accommodation. The hotel didn't have her favourite champagne upon arrival, and there were no pink roses in her room as requested. Additionally, the Chanel bathrobe she specifically asked for was not provided. Could you please address these issues with the hotel? Thanks, Sophia." Jonathan rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of the situation press down on him. This was becoming more than a minor inconvenience. It was a full-blown headache. He closed his laptop with a resigned sigh and glanced at Brian, who had been working across the room. "Brian, we need to head out for drinks." "Now," Jonathan said, his voice tinged with frustration. Brian looked up, eyebrows raised. "What happened?" Jonathan waved his hand dismissively. "Morgan's late to the shoot. The script is a mess, and now she's complaining about the hotel not meeting her very specific needs. I can't deal with this right now." Brian chuckled, shaking his head. "Sounds like a nightmare. Let's hit that new place downtown. I hear they've got a fantastic whiskey selection." Jonathan grabbed his coat and followed Brian out of the office. As they walked to the elevator, he tried to push the mounting frustration to the back of his mind, focusing instead on the promise of a cold drink and a chance to unwind. The day's issues would still be there tomorrow, but for now, he needed a break from the constant barrage of emails and demands. The city lights of Boston seemed to flicker with the promise of relaxation, and Jonathan welcomed the respite from the chaos. Morgan sat in her hotel suite, her frustration simmering as she drafted another email to the production team. She was already feeling the strain of the delays and her dissatisfaction with the commercial's direction. Subject, commercial storyline concerns. Hi team, I've reviewed the current storyline for the commercial and I have serious concerns. The concept of a man approaching a woman at a party and asking her to dance doesn't align with the empowering message I want to convey. It's not just outdated, it contradicts the values I'm promoting with this collection. Here's my vision. The woman should walk into the bar alone, confidently, with all eyes on her. She should be the one to take the initiative, asking the man to dance, thereby showcasing her empowerment and independence. The tagline for the brand should appear on screen later, emphasizing this strong, self-assured woman. I cannot film something that doesn't reflect these values. Please revise the storyline accordingly. Best, Morgan. She hit send with a mix of determination and exasperation. The production team had already been running in circles, trying to accommodate her demands, and she was well aware that she had seen and approved the drafts months ago. The team, now faced with yet another rewrite, sighed collectively. They had anticipated Morgan's reaction, but hoped her approval would stick. Their scheduled meetings and shoots were now in jeopardy, as they scrambled to revise the concept to fit her new directive. Subject: urgent. Immediate action required. Hi Morgan. Thank you for your feedback. We understand your concerns and will begin revising the storyline to align with your vision. However, please note that the initial drafts were approved by you several months ago. We'll do our best to meet your expectations and get back to you shortly with the updated concept. Best, Kelsey. Morgan closed her laptop and took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. She knew this was a pivotal moment for her brand, and she was determined to make sure it resonated with her values. Her vision for the commercial had to be perfect, even if it meant additional stress and last-minute changes. She took a moment to admire the view of Toronto from her suite window, hoping that the next day would bring smoother sailing. But as she looked out over the city, she couldn't shake the feeling that her journey to the A-list was far from over, and that the challenges were only just beginning. Morgan arrived at the set for the commercial shoot, her spirits lifted by the prospect of seeing her vision come to life. The day promised a flurry of activity, but she was ready to dive in, eager to ensure each scene was executed flawlessly. The first commercial featured Morgan walking down a bustling city sidewalk, embodying the essence of effortless elegance. She was dressed in high heels, skinny jeans, a crisp blouse, and carried a sleek black bag. As she walked, she spoke animatedly into her phone, making a reservation for dinner with a friend. The camera captured her in various angles, emphasizing her poise and the confidence in her stride. Passing by a large mirror, Morgan's reflection mirrored her happiness. She twirled slightly, her reflection joining in a spontaneous happy dance. Her face lit up with genuine delight as she admired her own reflection. For the second commercial, Morgan entered a restaurant, the scene meticulously crafted to highlight her status and allure. As she walked in, a group of women turned their heads, clearly starstruck. They approached her, asking about her outfit, which was styled to perfection. The commercial showcased her being the center of admiration, with an air of sophistication and charm. The camera captured her engaging with the fans, effortlessly blending grace with approachability. The third commercial featured Morgan at a glamorous party, where she bumped into a handsome man who immediately recognized her. With a charming smile, he asked her to dance. Morgan's expression was one of delight as they shared a moment of mutual agreement. The camera lingered on her confident demeanor and the chemistry between them, capturing the essence of the empowered woman who takes control of her own narrative. Each scene was meticulously filmed to ensure Morgan's star power shone through. The production crew worked diligently, making sure that every detail aligned with her vision. As the day wound down, Morgan felt a wave of satisfaction. The commercials were vibrant and dynamic, perfectly showcasing the essence of her capsule collection and her personal brand. Morgan left the set with a smile, her heart buoyant with excitement. She had finally achieved what she had envisioned, a series of commercials where she was not just the model, but the star, fully embodying the message of empowerment and confidence that she had fought so hard to convey. Morgan's heart raced with exhilaration as she stepped off the plane and into the bustling Boston airport. The flashes of paparazzi cameras greeted her like a chorus of stardom, capturing her every move. She breezed through the terminal with practiced ease, her chic outfit, an elegant black dress and stylish sunglasses, turning heads and further fueling her elation. She had arrived, and the world was finally noticing. As she slid into the back of her chauffeured car, the cool leather seats embraced her, and the cityscape of Boston unfolded before her eyes. The sensation of having her own personal driver made her feel like she was living the life she had always dreamed of. She marvelled at the reflection in the tinted windows, imagining how the photos would look in the tabloids, her face splashed across headlines and social media feeds. Morgan left the set with a smile, her heart buoyant with excitement. She had finally achieved what she had envisioned, a series of commercials where she was not just the model, but the star, fully embodying the message of empowerment and confidence that she had fought so hard to convey. Morgan's heart raced with exhilaration as she stepped off the plane and into the bustling Boston airport. The flashes of paparazzi cameras greeted her like a chorus of stardom, capturing her every move. She breezed through the terminal with practiced ease, her chic outfit, an elegant black dress and stylish sunglasses, turning heads and further fueling her elation. She had arrived, and the world was finally noticing. As she slid into the back of her chauffeured car, the cool leather seats embraced her, and the cityscape of Boston unfolded before her eyes. The sensation of having her own personal driver made her feel like she was living the life she had always dreamed of. She marvelled at the reflection in the tinted windows, imagining how the photos would look in the tabloids, her face splashed across headlines and social media feeds. Upon arriving at her apartment, she was greeted by a sense of accomplishment. The photos from the paparazzi had only cemented her place in the public eye. With a satisfied sigh, she unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment was quiet, save for a note propped up on the kitchen counter. It was from Rick, who was at work. The note was a simple message, expressing his hope that she had a great day and mentioning how much he missed her. She needed to unwind, and she had a plan to make things right with Rick. As soon as she got in, she began setting up for the evening. The apartment was transformed into a cozy, romantic space. She lit candles in every corner of the living room and kitchen, their soft glow casting a warm, inviting light. The scent of roast chicken and fresh vegetables filled the air, mingling with the subtle aroma of vanilla candles. Morgan carefully placed a bottle of expensive red wine on the kitchen counter, alongside glasses that she had polished to a perfect shine. She slipped into a figure-hugging red dress, one of her favourites, its rich colour and elegant, cut making her feel both beautiful and confident. She checked herself in the mirror, a small smile playing on her lips. Tonight was about more than just a meal. It was about showing Rick how much he meant to her, despite her recent preoccupations. She sent Rick a quick text. "Hey Rick, I'm sorry I've been so busy lately. I'd love for you to come over tonight. I've made dinner, and I'd like to make it up to you." Rick's response came almost immediately. "Sure thing. I'll be there in about 30 minutes. Morgan busied herself with the final touches, making sure everything was perfect. She set the table with elegant silverware and arranged the plates. She was in the middle of adding a sprinkle of fresh herbs to the roast chicken when she heard the buzz of the doorbell. Her heart raced a little as she walked to the door, opening it to reveal Rick standing there, looking slightly bemused and a bit tired from his long shift. His eyes widened as he took in the scene before him, candles flickering softly, the rich aroma of home-cooked food wafting through the air, and Morgan, looking every bit the glamorous host. "Wow," Rick said, stepping inside and removing his coat. "This is unexpected." Morgan gave him a warm smile, stepping forward to give him a hug. "I wanted to do something special for you. I'm sorry I've been so busy lately. I've missed spending time with you, and I thought this would be a nice way to make it up to you." Rick's expression softened as he took in the effort she had put into the evening. "This is really thoughtful, Morgan. It means a lot." Morgan led him to the dining table, where she served him a generous portion of the roast chicken and vegetables. The wine was poured, the rich red liquid gleaming in the glasses. They settled into their seats, and Morgan looked at Rick with genuine affection. "I know I've been caught up in work and everything," she began, her voice quivering slightly. "But I've been thinking a lot about us. I realize now that I've been pushing you aside, and that's not fair to you." Rick's eyes softened as he listened. "It's okay, Morgan. I understand that you have a lot on your plate." Morgan shook her head, her eyes welling up with emotion. "No, it's not okay. You've made me believe in love again. I see forever with you, Rick. I really do." Her phone buzzed on the desk, breaking the silence. Glancing at the screen, she saw a message from Daphne. "Hey, Morgan. I was thinking it's been a while since we caught up. How about coming to London sometime soon? It would be great to have you here, and I'm sure you'd love the city. Let me know if you're interested." Morgan's heart skipped a beat as she read the message. London. The thought of going to London made her mind race, and her thoughts immediately drifted to Count Sebastian. The allure of his world, the doors he could open, and the connections she could make danced vividly in her mind. The possibility of weaving herself into the British aristocracy was tantalizing. She quickly typed a response. "Hi, Daphne. I'd love to visit London. It sounds like a fantastic idea. I'll check my schedule and let you know when I can make it. Thanks for the invite." As she hit send, Morgan's thoughts wandered back to the complex web she was weaving. Sebastian was a key part of her plans, but she had to balance this with her current relationships. Rick, who was steadfast and supportive, and Adrian, whose affections were fresh and exciting, were both significant in their own ways. Morgan reflected on encounter with Adrian. He had been charming and attentive, and their connection felt promising. But she couldn't ignore the allure of Sebastian and the power he wielded. Her mind raced with the possibilities that came with being close to someone of his stature. She lounged on her plush sofa, her laptop open in front of her, as she scrolled through interviews and articles about Count Sebastian. She watched him discuss various philanthropic projects and felt a twinge of admiration mixed with envy. His work was consistently in the limelight, not just because of his fame, but because he was genuinely making a difference. The more she watched, the more Morgan realized she needed to recalibrate her own public image. She'd been focused on maintaining a glamorous exterior, but now she felt an urge to add a layer of substance to her persona, something that would resonate with a broader audience and align with her feminist values. Humanitarian work seemed like a logical step. It would show that she was not only a star, but also someone who cared about making a positive impact. With newfound determination, she began researching female managers with a track record of transforming celebrity images and aligning them with charitable causes. She knew that finding someone who understood her vision and could elevate her brand while also making meaningful contributions would be key. She compiled a list of potential candidates and set up meetings with them. One manager in particular caught her eye, Claire Adams, a well-known figure in the industry for her work with celebrities who wanted to pivot their careers toward philanthropy. Claire had an impressive resume, marked by successful image overhauls and high-profile charity projects. She was known for her ability to blend star power with genuine social impact, and Morgan was eager to see if Claire could help her achieve a similar transformation. In the meeting with Claire, Morgan presented her ideas with enthusiasm. "I want to create a public image that's not just about being glamorous, but also about making a real difference," she said. "I've been inspired by Count Sebastian's work and want to find ways to incorporate humanitarian efforts into my brand. I believe this will not only enhance my image, but also allow me to use my platform for good." Claire listened intently, nodding along. "You're on the right track. Integrating charity work into your career can significantly enhance your public image and create a deeper connection with your audience. It's all about finding the right causes that resonate with your values and passions." Morgan was thrilled by Claire's response. "Exactly. I'm looking for something authentic where I can contribute meaningfully and also shine a light on important issues." Claire outlined a plan to help Morgan navigate this new path. They would start by identifying key humanitarian causes that aligned with Morgan's interests and values. Claire would leverage her network to secure partnerships and opportunities for Morgan to get involved, from charity galas to advocacy campaigns. The prospect of working with Claire filled Morgan with excitement. She felt as though she was taking a crucial step toward not only boosting her career, but also leaving a positive mark on the world. With Claire's guidance, she was determined to craft a public persona that embodied both star power and genuine compassion. Morgan walked into Jonathan's office with a carefully composed demeanour, though inside, her heart raced with a mix of apprehension and determination. She had been working closely with Claire Adams for the past few weeks, and now she needed to make a change in her management team. She had decided to part ways with Jonathan, but she wanted to handle the situation with grace. Jonathan looked up from his desk, his expression shifting to a polite smile as he saw Morgan enter. "Morgan, come in." "How are you?" Morgan took a deep breath. "Jonathan, thank you for meeting with me. I wanted to discuss something important." Jonathan nodded, his attention fully on her. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Morgan sat down, choosing her words carefully. "I've been working with a new manager recently, Claire Adams. We've been exploring some new directions for my career, and after a lot of thought, I've decided that I'll be transitioning my management to her. I wanted to let you know personally before anything else." Jonathan's smile faltered slightly, though he quickly masked it with a neutral expression. "I see. Well, that's quite a change. May I ask why?" Morgan maintained her composure. "Claire has a specific vision for where I want to take my brand, especially with a focus on humanitarian work and high-profile collaborations that align with my new goals. I felt it was time to make a shift." Jonathan leaned back in his chair, nodding slowly. "I understand. You've always been ambitious, and it sounds like you're following a path that feels right for you." Morgan's internal disappointment flared up. She had hoped for more high-end brand deals and luxury endorsements under Jonathan's management, but it had never materialized as she had envisioned. Still, she plastered on a warm smile. "I want to thank you for everything you've done for me. Your support and guidance have been invaluable, and I truly appreciate all the hard work you've put in." Jonathan's relief was palpable, though he tried to mask it with a professional demeanour. "Thank you, Morgan. I appreciate your kind words. It's been a journey working together, and I wish you the best of luck with your new direction." Morgan stood up, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. "I'll always treasure the work we did together and the progress we made. I'm excited about this new chapter and hope we can part on good terms." Jonathan offered a sincere smile. "Of course. I wish you all the success in your future endeavours." As Morgan left Jonathan's office, she felt a strange mix of freedom and uncertainty. She was excited about the possibilities ahead with Claire, but couldn't shake the feeling that her previous management had not fully met her expectations. She was determined to prove that her new direction would bring the luxury brand deals and high-profile recognition she had always dreamed of. Morgan was brimming with excitement as she prepared for her first humanitarian event under Claire's guidance. The Women's Day panel discussion on body image and social media was exactly the kind of opportunity she had been waiting for to showcase her evolving brand and commitment to meaningful causes. The day of the event, Morgan arrived at the conference center early, her nerves a mix of anticipation and apprehension. She wore a sleek, fitted navy blue dress with minimalistic jewelry, just the right balance between chic and understated, perfect for making a statement without overshadowing the event's purpose. As she mingled with other panelists and speakers, Morgan felt a rush of energy. This was her chance to present herself in a new light, away from the superficiality of fashion and into the realm of social impact. The discussion was set to focus on how social media influenced perceptions of body image and how individuals could reclaim their self-worth despite the pressures of digital culture. When the panel began, Morgan took her place at the table, her heart pounding with excitement. The moderator introduced each panelist, highlighting their accomplishments and contributions. Morgan listened intently as her fellow speakers shared their insights, each bringing a unique perspective on the topic. Finally, it was Morgan's turn. As she stood up to speak, she glanced out at the audience, which was filled with a diverse group of women, all eager to hear what she had to say. She cleared her throat and began, her voice steady but infused with passion. I believe social media has an incredible power to shape our perceptions of ourselves and others. Morgan started, her gaze sweeping across the audience. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it connects us, allows us to share our stories, and brings awareness to important issues. But on the other hand, it often perpetuates unrealistic standards of beauty and success. She continued, discussing her personal experiences with social media and body image, emphasizing the importance of authenticity and self-love. We have to remember that behind every curated image is a person who has their own struggles and insecurities. The key is to not let those images dictate our self-worth. Instead, we should focus on what makes us unique and valuable. As the discussion continued, Morgan found herself more comfortable, her earlier nervousness melting away. The audience responded positively, engaging with thoughtful questions and sharing their own experiences. Morgan's words resonated deeply, and she felt a profound sense of accomplishment by the end of the panel. After the event, Claire approached Morgan with a broad smile. You were fantastic today. You really connected with the audience and spoke from the heart. Morgan beamed with pride. Thank you, Claire. It felt good to be part of something so meaningful. As she left the conference centre, Morgan couldn't help but reflect on how much this experience had meant to her. It was a significant step toward reshaping her public image and proving that she was more than just a glamorous face in the spotlight. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where her influence could extend beyond fashion and into areas where she could truly make a difference. The event had gone better than she could have hoped, and as she walked to her car, Morgan felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was ready to embrace this new path and continue building her brand with authenticity and impact at its core. November in the south of France had a different charm, one that Morgan, Emma, and Julia found irresistible. The air was cool and the days were shorter, but the beauty of the region remained timeless. The trio arrived at the elegant villa nestled among the rolling hills of Provence, eager for a weekend of relaxation and luxury. Though the sun was less intense, the warmth of the villa and the promise of good company created a perfect retreat from their hectic lives. The villa, with its stone walls and traditional Provençal decor, was a picture of rustic elegance. Inside, the crackling fire in the grand hearth added a cosy ambience, warding off the November chill. The women settled in quickly, marvelling at the villa's charm as they made themselves comfortable. By early afternoon, they were gathered around the fire, wrapped in plush blankets and sipping glasses of rich, full-bodied red wine. They enjoyed an assortment of fresh pastries, cheeses, and charcuterie as the conversation flowed naturally. Despite the cooler temperatures, the warmth of their friendship made everything feel inviting. "So, London is coming up soon," Julia said, her voice laced with excitement. "I'm thrilled for our trip. I've been planning outfits for weeks." Emma smiled, nodding. "I can't wait to see what you've put together. And I'm really looking forward to everything Daphne has planned." Morgan, who had been quietly enjoying her wine, perked up at the mention of London. She had been preparing meticulously for this trip, knowing it could be pivotal in her plans. The idea of mingling with London's elite filled her with a mix of excitement and anticipation. "That sounds incredible," Morgan said, her tone casual, though her mind was racing. "I'm excited to experience London with you both. Daphne always has something amazing up her sleeve." As the afternoon turned into early evening, the villa's surroundings took on a soft twilight glow. The three friends moved to the dining area, where they enjoyed a hearty dinner of roasted meats and seasonal vegetables. The conversation continued to flow, shifting from fashion and travel to personal stories and future plans. Later, as the sky darkened and the stars began to twinkle, they gathered around the fire pit on the villa's terrace. The warmth of the fire and the rich red wine made for a comforting combination as they enjoyed the serene, crisp air. Morgan took a deep breath, feeling a rare sense of ease. She looked at Emma and Julia, both of whom had become even more important to her in recent months. They were not just friends, but allies in her ever-evolving plans. "You know," Morgan began thoughtfully, "I've been thinking a lot about where life is taking me. This trip and our upcoming London adventure feel like such a turning point. It's been a whirlwind of changes, and I'm grateful to have friends like you both." Emma smiled warmly. "We're all in this together, Morgan. It's been great to see you thriving, and I know London is going to be another amazing chapter in our lives." Julia raised her glass. "To new experiences and fabulous friends. Here's to making every moment count." They clinked their glasses, savouring the moment. Morgan's thoughts drifted to London, where her ambitions would take centre stage. She felt a mixture of excitement and determination, knowing that this trip could be a crucial step in her journey. Later that night, after everyone went to bed, Morgan sat in her room, having another glass of wine. She looked around, feeling nerves in her stomach, sliding her phone out of her pocket. Unlocking her phone, she opened the Notes app, gazed at her note, Operation High Life. She hesitated for a moment, the weight of what she was about to do settling over her, but the thrill of what this could mean for her future was too strong to ignore. This wasn't just about meeting Count Sebastian anymore. It was about securing her place in the upper echelons of society, where she felt she truly belonged. Morgan began typing, her fingers moving quickly over the screen as she updated her list. People in Sebastian's circle: 1. Daphne Wentworth, his cousin, charming, well-connected, socialite. Goal: meet up with her again in London, get close, earn her trust. 2. Viscount Richard Wentworth, his older brother, married to Victoria Banchfield. Goal: find a way to cross paths at events. Wedding of the century, any connection here will attract attention. 3. Lady Victoria Wentworth. Viscountess Dorchester, married to Richard. Goal: infiltrate her social circle, subtly impress her. 4. Rose Banchfield, Victoria's sister, recently dating Alejandro, but they broke up. Goal: find common ground through fashion, charity, or mutual acquaintances. 5. Emma Clark, already a friend, designer, connected to Sebastian's circle through Daphne and loosely through Julia. Goal: strengthen this relationship, leverage her connections. 6. Princess Yasmina, recently interviewed her, influential in humanitarian work. Goal: maintain contact, explore any connections she might have to billionaires or aristocracy. 7. Alejandro Serrano, billionaire, now dating Emma, previously linked to Rose. Goal: stay on good terms, potential invite to exclusive events. 8. The Wentworth family's inner circle, other members of British aristocracy, a list celebrities and influential figures connected to the Wentworths. Goal: identify key individuals, network at London events, and ensure visibility. She paused, scrolling through the list, feeling a mix of determination and nerves. This wasn't just some idle fantasy. This was a plan. A strategy to elevate her status, to finally claim the life she had always wanted. Meeting Count Sebastian was just the beginning. Integrating herself into his world was the real goal. She was no longer content with merely brushing shoulders with the elite. She wanted to be one of them. Morgan sat back, staring at the list, her heart racing. It didn't matter that Count Sebastian had rejected her blog interview request. That was a small setback. What mattered now was making herself indispensable, visible, and unforgettable to the people in his circle. One paparazzi photo with him would change her life forever, and she was determined to make it happen. She closed the note and locked her phone, placing it on the nightstand beside her. As she lay back on the pillows, a smile played on her lips. She could already picture it, her name in the headlines, her face on the cover of magazines, the whispers of her connection to the Wentworth family swirling in elite circles. This was her moment, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. Morgan drifted off to sleep that night with visions of London's high society dancing in her mind, knowing that she was closer than ever to the life she had always dreamed of. And no one, not even Count Sebastian himself, could stand in her way. Morgan returned to the set of ties with a newfound sense of purpose and confidence. The show, now in its 5th season, had become a staple of cable television, and her role as the ambitious and stylish girlfriend of a personal assistant to the CEO had garnered her a steady fan base. But, while Ties was important to her, it was no longer the centerpiece of her career. It was merely one part of the mosaic she was carefully crafting, a mosaic that would, she was certain, lead her to the pinnacle of fame and influence. As she walked onto the set that morning, she noticed the usual bustle of crew members setting up cameras, adjusting lighting, and reviewing scripts. She gave a few polite smiles and nods to the familiar faces, but her mind was elsewhere. The past few months had been a whirlwind of glamorous events, humanitarian trips, and high-profile appearances. The success of her blog, the Tumi, had also played a significant role in this. After her interview with Princess Yasmina, the blog had taken off in a way she hadn't anticipated. The post about the princess had resonated with her readers, and the blend of celebrity humanitarianism and self-love themes had struck a chord. The readership had exploded, and with it, so had the opportunities. Invitations to speak at events and host panels began flooding in, and each appearance only served to boost her credibility and visibility. Morgan settled into her chair in the makeup trailer, her mind still racing with thoughts of her growing influence. She barely noticed as the makeup artist began working on her, carefully applying foundation, blush, and eyeliner. In just a few months, she had gone from being an actress on a moderately successful TV show to a woman who was rubbing shoulders with A-listers and royalty. It was exactly what she had always wanted, and yet she still felt a gnawing sense of urgency. As much as she enjoyed the perks of her rising status, she knew she wasn't at the top yet. There was still work to be done, connections to be made, and a certain British count to meet. But for now, she had to focus on her job. Ties was still important. It was her foundation, her steady paycheck, and the role that kept her in the public eye. After makeup, she walked over to the wardrobe department where her character's outfits were lined up for the day. She selected a sleek, tailored blazer and pencil skirt, paired with a silk blouse, her character's signature look. As she dressed, she mentally prepared herself for the scenes ahead. Today, she had a particularly emotional scene where her character confronts her boyfriend about their future, a storyline that had become a fan favourite. But even as she focused on her lines, Morgan couldn't help but think about the bigger picture. The more speaking events she attended, the more she realised how much she enjoyed being in the spotlight, not just as an actress, but as a voice, someone who could influence, inspire and lead. The dinners with influential women in Hollywood had been eye-opening. She was starting to see herself as part of that world. Not just an actress, but a brand, a force to be reckoned with. As the day progressed, Morgan moved through her scenes with ease, slipping in and out of character as needed. Between takes, she checked her phone, responding to emails from Claire about upcoming events, and making mental notes about which ones she wanted to prioritize. There was a dinner next week with a group of female producers she had her eye on, and a panel on women in media that she was particularly excited about. By the time she wrapped up filming for the day, the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the set. Morgan walked back to her trailer, feeling satisfied with her performance and eager for what lay ahead. She had worked hard to get to this point, and now that things were finally falling into place, she was determined to keep pushing forward. As she sat in her trailer, scrolling through her phone, she saw an email from Claire confirming her attendance at an upcoming women's empowerment event in New York. It was another opportunity to speak, to be seen, and to solidify her place among the influential women she admired. Morgan smiled to herself, feeling a surge of excitement. She was on the right path, and nothing was going to stop her now. Her career was flourishing, her blog was thriving, and the world was beginning to see her for who she truly was, a woman of substance, style, and ambition. And as she prepared to leave the set and head back to her apartment, she couldn't help but think about the next steps. There were still connections to be made, places to go, and people to meet. And most importantly, there was still a certain count she was determined to cross paths with. Morgan stepped off the small charter plane into the warm Kenyan air, the sun casting a golden hue over the landscape. She took a deep breath, adjusting her blue sleeveless vest that fit perfectly, paired with khaki pants that were both practical and stylish. The outfit was no accident. It was inspired by a photograph of Viscountess Adeline during one of her humanitarian trips to Angola in the 90s. The image of Adeline in a similar outfit had become iconic, symbolizing both grace and dedication, and Morgan intended to evoke that same aura. Her sneakers, though practical, added a modern touch, rounding out the look she'd meticulously curated for this trip. She wasn't alone on this journey. Alongside her was David Chambers, a fashion photographer she dated briefly a few years ago. Though their romantic relationship had fizzled, a mutually beneficial friendship had remained. David's talent for capturing striking images was exactly what Morgan needed for this trip. He understood her vision, knew the angles that would make her look her best, and was well versed in creating the kind of narrative she wanted to project. As they rode in the jeep towards the village they were scheduled to visit, Morgan could feel the weight of the moment. This trip wasn't just about charity. It was about being seen as someone who could make a difference, someone with depth and compassion. She knew how much Africa meant to Sebastian, how his mother's humanitarian work had shaped his worldview. If she could connect with that part of him, it would only strengthen their bond. "I want these photos to be timeless, David," Morgan said, her tone determined. "It needs to feel real, impactful." David, seated beside her with his camera ready, gave her a reassuring nod. "I've got you covered. But remember, it's not just about the look, it's about the moment. Let's make sure it feels genuine." Morgan nodded, though her mind was already racing ahead. She knew what needed to be done. When they arrived at the village, Morgan was greeted warmly by the elders and children, their eyes wide with curiosity. She quickly fell into her role, shaking hands, offering smiles and bending down to speak with the children. One little girl, with pigtails and a shy smile, caught her attention. Morgan knelt to the girl's level, asking her name, where she went to school, and what she liked to do for fun. The girl giggled, responding in Swahili, and Morgan nodded as the translator filled her in, maintaining her warm smile. It was a picture-perfect moment, and she could feel David's camera capturing it all. As they moved through the village, visiting the small clinic funded by Lifeline Global Aid, Morgan asked thoughtful questions, genuinely interested in the work being done. She wanted to project an image of someone deeply involved, someone who cared about the well-being of others. David continued to snap photos, capturing her as she listened intently to the doctors and nurses, her expression serious and engaged. The day was long, but every moment was carefully orchestrated to craft the narrative she wanted. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the fields, David took one last shot of Morgan standing by the jeep, looking out over the landscape. She was lost in thought, the very picture of a woman on a mission. "Got it," David said, lowering his camera. "These are going to be incredible, Morgan." Morgan nodded, her heart racing with anticipation. She could already envision the headlines, the magazine features. She would be seen as more than just a former TV actress. She would be a woman of substance, a change maker. And, perhaps most importantly, she would connect with Sebastian on a level that few could. As they climbed back into the jeep, Morgan allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Her plan was falling into place perfectly, and she knew this trip would thrust her into the spotlight in a way she had always dreamed of. This was more than just a visit to a village in Kenya. This was the moment that would define her. The morning sun in Kenya was relentless, pouring down its heat with an intensity that made Morgan's jeans and black shirt feel like an unbearable burden. She had chosen her outfit carefully, inspired by a photograph of actress Lena Marlowe on a humanitarian trip to Brazil. Lena's blue hat was iconic, a symbol of her blend of fashion and philanthropy, and Morgan hoped to channel some of that same impact with her own blue hat, which shielded her face from the sun. Despite the heat, Morgan plastered a smile on her face, determined to maintain the image she was crafting. Today's task was to dig wells in a different village, a project meant to provide clean water to the children and families who lived there. The thought of getting dirty and sweating through her outfit wasn't appealing, but she was committed to playing her role perfectly. David, ever the professional, was by her side, capturing every moment with his camera. He kept his distance, allowing Morgan to engage with the locals while ensuring he captured the most compelling images. As they arrived at the village, the children ran up to them, their faces bright with curiosity and excitement. Morgan waved and smiled, shaking hands with the village leaders and offering kind words about the importance of the work they were doing. She tried to ignore the sweat trickling down her back, focusing instead on the camera flashes and the encouraging words from her team. The village was bustling with activity as they set up the site for the well. Morgan joined a group of local workers, taking part in the digging process. She played up her enthusiasm, scooping out dirt and pretending to enjoy the physical labor. She made sure to position herself strategically in front of David's camera, showing off her perseverance and dedication. "Look at you go," David called out, capturing her mid-shovel. "You're a natural," Morgan flashed a grin, though she was feeling the strain of the heat. "Just doing my part," she replied, her voice a mix of determination and slight annoyance. The last thing she wanted was to appear uncomfortable, but the sun was relentless, and the work was harder than she had anticipated. During a break, Morgan took a moment to drink water and wipe her forehead with a cloth. She watched as the workers continued their efforts, feeling a pang of guilt for the disparity between her and their daily struggles. She had always wanted to be seen as a person of action, but in these moments, the reality of her comfort compared to theirs was stark. Despite her discomfort, Morgan's focus remained on the goal, making this trip as impactful as possible and impressing Sebastian with her dedication and adaptability. She knew how much this work meant to him and was determined to show that she was more than just a pretty face with a philanthropic facade. As the day progressed, the well began to take shape. The villagers, including the children, cheered with each new progress. Morgan engaged with them, asking questions and encouraging them as if she had been working on similar projects for years. Her enthusiasm was genuine, even if the heat and exhaustion were taking their toll. When the well was finally completed and water began to flow, Morgan felt a surge of pride. She held up her hands, splashing a bit of the water playfully as David snapped photos of the joyous reactions from the villagers. It was a moment of triumph, and she hoped it would translate into powerful images that would help her cause. As they wrapped up for the day, Morgan took off her hat and looked at David. "How do you think the photos turned out?" David grinned, a bit worn out but satisfied. "They're going to be fantastic. You were incredible out there, despite the heat." Morgan nodded, her smile returning. "Thanks, David. I really hope this makes a difference." As they drove back to their accommodations, Morgan leaned back, exhausted but content. She knew she had played her part well, and as the sun set over the Kenyan landscape, she felt a sense of accomplishment. Morgan sat on the plush chair in her hotel suite, barely keeping her irritation in check as her makeup artist dabbed a light layer of concealer under her eyes. "We want it to look like you just rolled out of bed, looking this fresh," the makeup artist chirped, blending seamlessly. She nodded, forcing a smile. She was exhausted from maintaining the facade of a compassionate humanitarian, and the idea of spending another day under the blazing sun, pretending to be genuinely moved by the plight of those she was visiting, made her inwardly groan. But this was all part of the plan. Her image was everything, and today was about adding another layer to that carefully constructed persona. Her hairdresser finished tousling her hair into effortless waves, and Morgan glanced at her reflection. The look was perfect, natural, glowing, like she was born to do this kind of work. It was exactly what she needed. Her stylist laid out the day's outfit, a flowing maxi dress paired with sneakers, both by a renowned Kenyan designer. "This will really resonate with the locals, and it's chic enough for the cameras," the stylist explained, smoothing out the fabric. Morgan stood, slipping into the dress. The fabric was light and comfortable, but the idea of wearing anything remotely restrictive in this heat made her sigh. She finished dressing, adding a few minimal accessories, and looked herself over in the mirror. The illusion was complete. She was the perfect blend of approachable and stylish, ready to charm the cameras and the locals alike. The school in the village was their destination for the day. As she stepped out of the suite, Morgan plastered on her warmest smile. Today was about the bigger picture, the one that would cement her place in the public's eye as a true change maker, much like her idols. The cameras would capture every moment, and by the time she left Kenya, the world would be convinced of her devotion to humanitarian causes. As she walked through the doors of her apartment, Morgan let out a long, tired breath as she dropped her bags in the entryway. The exhaustion from the long flight back from Kenya weighed on her, making every step feel like a chore. She peeled off her shoes, the cool floor beneath her feet a small relief as she padded toward the bathroom. The trip had been grueling, more so than she had anticipated. Playing the part of the dedicated humanitarian under the sweltering African sun, day after day, had drained her. But it had worked, at least. That's what she told herself as she turned on the hot water for her bath. Sinking into the tub, she closed her eyes, letting the heat soothe her sore muscles. As the water enveloped her, Morgan allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Her social media posts from Kenya had performed exceptionally well. The carefully curated images of her visiting schools, digging wells, and interacting with children had garnered thousands of likes and comments. Some were even picked up by online magazines and blogs. It helped that she knew a few publicists who could give her the boost she needed, and they had come through as expected. The press was flattering, the headlines painting her as the compassionate, worldly actress she had always wanted to be seen as. But all she could think about now was comfort, something to bring her back down to earth after weeks of living a lie. After her bath, Morgan threw on an oversized sweatshirt and leggings, then picked up her phone and ordered a pizza. She needed something indulgent, something far removed from the wholesome image she had just spent so much effort cultivating. As she waited for the delivery, Morgan flopped onto the couch, scrolling through the glowing comments on her latest posts. The effort was paying off. Every like, every positive article was another step closer to solidifying her place in the public eye. When the doorbell rang, she practically leaped off the couch. The smell of hot pizza filled her apartment as she set the box on the coffee table, pulling out a slice. She took a bite, the familiar taste of cheese and pepperoni bringing her a sense of comfort she hadn't realized she'd missed. Morgan leaned back, closing her eyes and savoring the moment. It had been a long few weeks, but everything was falling into place. The sacrifice, the exhaustion, it would all be worth it in the end. She was sure of it. It was a few days later when Rick walked into his apartment after a long day at the restaurant, the familiar scent of herbs and spices still clinging to his clothes. He tossed his keys onto the table by the door and let out a tired sigh, but his eyes lit up when he saw Morgan sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "Hey, babe," he said, walking over and leaning down to give her a quick kiss. "How was your day?" Morgan looked up, flashing him a practiced smile. "It was good. Busy, but you know how." "It is? Yeah, I do," Rick said, grinning. "But guess what? I have some exciting news." "Oh." Morgan tilted her head, feigning mild curiosity. "What's up?" Rick's grin widened as he pulled off his jacket and sat down beside her. "So, you know how the restaurant has been trying to get some high-profile catering gigs? Well, we finally landed a big one. We're catering a charity event hosted by Count Sebastian's foundation." Morgan's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her expression neutral. "Count Sebastian? Who's that?" "He's a British count, really big in the charity world. He started a foundation years ago for mental health awareness, specifically focusing on teens. It's a huge deal, and it's going to be all over the press. This could really put the restaurant on the map." Morgan nodded, keeping her tone casual. "Wow, that's incredible, Rick. I'm really happy for you in the restaurant. It sounds like a big opportunity." Rick beamed, clearly pleased with her reaction. "Yeah, it is. The event is next month, so we have a lot to prepare for, but I think it's going to be great." "I'm sure it will be," Morgan said, giving him a supportive smile. "You've worked so hard, and you deserve this." "Thanks, babe," Rick said, leaning in to kiss her again. "I'm just glad things are finally falling into place." Morgan kissed him back, but her mind was racing. She could hardly believe the coincidence. Of all the people, of all the events, Rick's restaurant had landed a gig with Count Sebastian's foundation. It was almost too perfect. But she couldn't let on how much this news excited her. If Rick suspected anything, it could ruin everything. She forced herself to relax, acting as if the name meant nothing to her. "I'm really proud of you, Rick. This is a huge step." Rick smiled, clearly basking in her praise. "Thanks, Morgan. It means a lot to hear you say that." Morgan nodded, her thoughts still spinning. This was it, the perfect opportunity she'd been waiting for. She just had to play her cards right, and soon enough, she'd be standing in the same room as Count Sebastian, just like she'd always dreamed. The fact that Rick was the one providing her with this opportunity was almost poetic, in a way. But she couldn't get ahead of herself. She had to be patient, careful, and above all, subtle. "Anyway, enough about me," Rick said, leaning back on the couch. "How about you? Anything exciting happened today?" Morgan shook her head, keeping her tone light. "Nothing too thrilling, just the usual work stuff. But hearing about your big news definitely made my day." Rick smiled, clearly pleased with her response. "Glad to hear it. Let's celebrate tonight. Maybe we can order in, open a bottle of wine." "That sounds perfect," Morgan said, leaning into him and resting her head on his shoulder. "I'll get the wine." As she stood up and walked to the kitchen, she couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. Things were finally falling into place. The stars were aligning, and if she played her cards right, this charity event could be the key to everything she'd ever wanted. All she had to do was make sure Rick never suspected a thing. Morgan stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down her wide-legged brown pants. The fabric was impeccable, hugging her waist just right and flowing elegantly over her dark brown heels. She paired it with a crisp white button-up shirt, the simplicity of the outfit screaming understated sophistication. She was Morgan Smith, after all, the star of ties, a blogger, a humanitarian. She was a woman who made an impact in the world, and she needed to look the part. As she adjusted the collar of her shirt, she repeated her affirmations in her mind. "I am powerful. I am influential. I am exactly where I'm meant to be." The words steadied her, filling her with a renewed sense of purpose. Today was a big day. Rick's restaurant was catering for Count Sebastian's charity event, and she was going to be there, press credential in hand, ready to blog about the experience. But this wasn't just about a blog post. This was about positioning herself within the world she'd always wanted to be a part of. She'd get close to Count Sebastian, mingle with the heavy hitters, and cement herself as someone who belonged. Morgan drove to the venue, her heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and excitement. The sleek lines of her car glided through the city streets as she rehearsed her approach in her mind. She'd casually introduce herself, make an impression, and leave a lasting mark on Sebastian. It was all about the long game, after all. When she arrived at the venue, she flashed her press credential at the security at the entrance, feeling a thrill of satisfaction when they waved her through. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. High ceilings, glittering chandeliers, and an air of importance hung in the room as wealthy patrons, philanthropists, and influential figures milled about. Morgan's eyes scanned the crowd, looking for Sebastian. It didn't take long to spot him. Tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, Sebastian exuded a quiet confidence as he conversed with several high-profile guests. Morgan's heart quickened, but she forced herself to remain calm. She had to be strategic. She moved through the room, mingling with guests and making small talk, all the while keeping an eye on Sebastian. But as the day wore on, she began to realize just how difficult it was to get close to him. He was constantly surrounded by a wall of people, politicians, CEOs, celebrities, all vying for his attention. Even when she managed to get within a few feet of him, the conversation would shift, pulling him away before she had the chance to say more than a polite greeting. Morgan refused to be discouraged. She knew how these things worked. Today might not be the day she'd have him in her grasp, but that didn't mean it wouldn't happen. All she needed was a little more time, and Count Sebastian would see it too. Finding Strength in Self-Love, The Power of Mental Health Advocacy, by Morgan Smith. There's something incredibly humbling about standing in a room filled with people who have faced the darkest corners of their minds and come out stronger. Recently, I had the honor of attending an event that left an indelible mark on my heart. The event was hosted by the Radiant Minds Project, dedicated to raising awareness about mental health, particularly for teenagers. As someone who has always believed in the importance of self-love and uplifting others, I felt a deep connection to the mission. Of this cause, mental health is often a topic we shy away from discussing, but it's one that touches every single one of us in some way. Growing up, I often felt like I didn't quite fit in, as a biracial girl in a world that sometimes felt too small for my dreams. I struggled with my identity and my place in the world. I know what it feels like to be different, to feel out of place. There were times when I wondered if I'd ever be able to bridge the gap between who I was and who I wanted to be. In high school, while others saw a confident, outgoing girl, there were moments when I questioned everything. It's easy to see the outside and assume everything is perfect, but the truth is, we all have our struggles. Looking back, I realized that those moments of doubt and uncertainty were just as important as the moments of triumph. They taught me the importance of self-love and how crucial it is to nurture our mental health. The event I attended was a powerful reminder of this. Listening to the stories of young people who have faced unimaginable challenges and come through stronger on the other side was both heartbreaking and inspiring. It made me reflect on my own journey and the importance of creating a space where we can all feel safe, loved, and supported. I was deeply moved by the commitment and dedication of the Foundation's team to make a difference in the lives of these young people. Their work is a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there is always light. It's a message that resonates deeply with me, as I believe that self-love is the foundation upon which we build our lives. When we love ourselves, we become unstoppable. We can face any challenge, overcome any obstacle, and emerge stronger. As I watched the speakers and listened to their stories, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the journey I've been on, and for the people who have supported me along the way, but also gratitude for the opportunity to be a part of something bigger than myself, to uplift others, to be a voice for those who are struggling, and to remind everyone that they are worthy of love and happiness. In this fast-paced world, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. We get caught up in the pursuit of success, in the need to prove ourselves, and sometimes we forget to take care of our mental and emotional well-being. But events like this one are a powerful reminder of the importance of slowing down, of taking a moment to check in with ourselves, and of being there for the people in our lives who might be struggling. I walked away from that event with a renewed sense of purpose. The work being done by this foundation is nothing short of incredible, and it has inspired me to do more, to be more. I want to use my platform to continue advocating for mental health, to remind everyone reading this that they are not alone, and that it's okay to ask for help. Self-love is not a destination, but a journey. It's about learning to accept ourselves, flaws and all, and recognizing that we are enough just as we are. It's about finding strength in our vulnerability and using that strength to uplift others. So, as you go about your day, I encourage you to take a moment to Check in with yourself. Practice self-love. Be kind to yourself. And remember that you are worthy of all the good things life has to offer. Together, we can create a world where everyone feels seen, heard, and loved. And that, to me, is the greatest gift of all.